Good evening. Welcome to the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education special meeting for Monday, December 16th at 5 p.m. in the Vermillion High School Library. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Habermill.
Yes, are here, excuse me.
Mrs. Ennis.
Here.
Mrs. Russell.
Here.
Mrs. Stepp.
Here.
Mr. Benson. Here. All members present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is public participation on agenda items. The time allotted for this community members to speak to the board regarding an item on the agenda. Please register your name, address, topic, and group affiliation. Time allotted is 30 minutes total. We did not collect the sheet, but did anyone sign? We're gonna catch you at the end, Reed. Item 5 is the superintendent's report and/or recommendations. Okay. Item 6 is public participation. Again, I know Reed's gonna speak, but we'll bump that to the end there. I think we're good. Item 7, treasurer's report and/or recommendations.
Thank you. Recommend a resolution for the board to approve declaring a necessity of submitting to the electors of the school district the question of the issuance of school improvement bonds in the aggregate principal amount of $47 million pursuant to section 133.18 of the revised code, and requesting consents of the state tax commissioner and director of education and workforce, attachment A.
I'll move.
I'll second.
So what exactly is a bond levy? A bond levy is a ballot measure to fund the building or renovation of existing buildings. Revenue generated from the sale of bonds cannot be used for operating expenses such as salaries, such as health insurance, or buying school buses. That revenue can only be used for the language listed in the resolution which you have in front of you. And then just real quick, to give a brief history, our high school was built in 1968 and our middle school in 1976, and both have had minimal changes to the footprint of either building. We've replaced the roof and the entire HVAC system at the middle school this past year, and just the cost of the roof and the HVAC was just under $2 million. In fact, the district has spent $15.6 million in the last 4 years on these types of improvements, all of which come from the district's operating funds, or I should say operating levies. How Vermillion local schools have their levies is actually pretty unique. Vermillion has 4 current expense levies, and they were passed in 1976, 1989, 1992, and 1993. These levies collect the same amount of revenue they did when they were passed, meaning Vermillion has collected the same revenue without an increase in 31 years on these 4 levies. In 2008, Vermillion passed an emergency levy, which generates $4.25 million in operating revenue. Vermillion is unique because it uses operating revenue to fix and replace its capital assets, and it has been doing that for the last 16, almost 17 years now. By comparison, out of the 611 schools in Ohio, 211 of them have an income tax, it's 34%. 410 of the schools have a bond levy, which is 67% of schools in Ohio. And 507 schools, or 83% of the schools, have a permanent improvement levy. So Vermillion is one of 43 schools in Ohio that only has operating levies. The reason you have a recommendation before you is because the district's finances can no longer keep up with the cost to fix and repair its infrastructure and buildings. Because of this, our administrative team has worked with Fanning Howey, which is an architectural firm that specializes in renovating school buildings over the past year, to determine what systems are at the end of their useful life and will need to be replaced. Fanning Howey gave a presentation over the scope of this proposed work at our October 14th board meeting. Because the district has significant capital needs, which were included in our most recent 5-year forecast, And because these capital needs bring our available cash from $16.2 million at the start of this year down to $1.7 million by the end of fiscal year 29, which essentially we're going from 190 days in cash and ending our 5-year forecast with 20 days in cash. And because of board policy 6235, which states if the general fund cash balance falls below or is projected to fall below 25% of the annual general fund expenditures, the treasurer must bring this to the attention of the board and the administration. At this time, the board must request the administration to create a plan to reduce expenditures, request an additional tax levy, or a combination of both. And I just want to point out the most significant cause for our cash reserves to show that decrease is because of the cost to replace and repair our aging infrastructure, and it's not from our daily operations. Okay?
Thank you, Justin. So just maybe to add on and recap a little bit, it has been nearly 20 years since the district has asked for any new money of any kind. And I think that's kind of a twofold reason, right? I think the district's been fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money and has managed the district in a way that is responsible. And at the same time, our demographics have changed, right? We've our class sizes are smaller, our enrollment's gone down, and that's probably allowed us to ride that wave maybe a little longer than we thought we could. So because of that, we're still in a decent place, but when we look at our buildings and we look at our facilities, it is time to start fixing things and start upgrading things, so we are in a position where I think it's time that we have to, make some kind of a move. And I think this levy with funds that are specific to building improvements or building renovations is important, much like our safety funds that we have, right? They can only be spent on safety. Well, these funds have to be put toward our facilities, and that'll allow us to maintain our operating funds also and continue to run the district in a responsible way. So, we're going to the voters with this. We don't wanna, we don't wanna obviously make any decisions that our voting public doesn't agree with, and we're just trying to get it out there, make sure that people understand how important this is and how much it means to the district for us to be able to continue operating and to be able to provide the best education, the best facilities for our students.
I agree, Chris. Everyone knows our district's main goal is to educate our students in the best possible way with the best teachers, the best computers, everything. But besides the educational aspect, they need to be able to have a safe building and facilities to roam the halls in, and they have to be able to feel proud of where they're at. And it's in desperate need of some upgrades to come into the future, like where we are now. We are kind of stuck in the past. We don't have ports for their computers to be charged. Little things like that really make a difference for these kids, to make them feel proud of where they're at, which helps them want to do better as well. So I think besides computers and teachers and the curriculum, we have to make sure the surroundings are to standard for them, because this is for them.
And Justin, I think you've done it, through the years. All the coaches, we've done a good job of being fiscally responsible, I think, but I think we are at that tipping point now where the general fund can't support all of these renovations and upgrades that need to be done. And so we have to reach out to the public for help.
As old as the buildings are, I think it says a lot that we've maintained it as long as we have on this before needing something like this, and now it's reaching the point, just for functionality purposes, we have to do these big things, and that's what it's coming down to, that to do these big things, like you said, we just can't do it on the operating funds anymore, so that's where we're at with it.
Our goal too, between now and when this hits a ballot, right, is to educate and inform as many people as possible so that hopefully everyone agrees that it's the right thing to do. It's, I think being open and transparent about it and making sure that everyone knows you know, where this money would go and why we need to do it is important.
And I think Dave, and put you both on the spot, Dave and Justin, I think are open to anybody that has questions about it. Anytime I have questions, I call them up to, can you explain why, for example, why we need this, why are we wording it this way and such. And so, anybody out there who has questions, feel free to reach out to them. Very good at explaining it.
Right, and just, cause I thought about something else too, and this is a special meeting, right? It's not one of our regular meetings, but we actually had to do it this way, right?
Correct.
This is not something that, it's not something we could have waited till the next regular meeting or something like that. We had to do it via special meeting to get it completed on time.
Yeah, the requirements for anything going bond-wise, or any levy for that matter, requires to be a special board meeting and cannot be done in a regular board meeting.
I know one of the questions that people are gonna have is, what are we gonna spend this money for? So I'd like to share some of those bigger ticket items, right now, so people, know why we're asking for these dollars. So let's start here at the high school. So right now, we do not have adequate science rooms for our students. This has been true for a long time. We really only have one fully equipped science lab, and we certainly need additional ones. To renovate the science wing, and provide science labs for our students is right now, these are just estimates that we have today, $2.2 million to renovate the science wing. We have, our roof is at the end of its life on this building. Very large building with a flat roof. We have an estimate that's somewhere between $4 and $7 million. We don't know where that's gonna land. They have to get up there and tear some of the roof off and actually see what is actually needed before they can make that decision. So the roof, this roof on this building at the high school is one of the larger ticket items. We have asphalt and paving that's gonna need to happen that's gonna cost almost $300,000. And that's something you have to stay ahead of, because if you get behind on that, then it gets even more expensive. Having to replace bases and all that type of thing. So on the roof, going back to the roof, there's 5 HVAC units up there. The estimate to replace those is $30,000 a piece, $150,000 to replace the HVAC systems that are mounted to the roof. We need, our bathrooms are in desperate need of renovations, not only in this building, but also at SMS. The current estimate we have for that is $225,000. And that's not to do a full renovation, that's not including plumbing. That's just doing sort of the aesthetic things, upgrades. So that's some of the things here at the high school. Over at Sailor Way, we have a elevator that needs to be completely replaced, $125,000. We have a lot of sidewalks over there because of the age of the sidewalks and the freezing and the hooving, they're uneven, with $120,000 worth of sidewalk replacement. We have a water main over there and at this building, that's gonna cost between $35,000 and $40,000 to replace. And those, it's just simply because they've aged out. There's holes in them, they break from time to time, someone has to come out and dig it up, patch it, and that's gone on for a long time, so it's actually time for those to be replaced. We also need the bathrooms renovated at Sailor Way. There's twice as many bathrooms over there, and so we figured it'd be about a $500,000 project to do the bathrooms. Moving on to our bus garage. Anybody that's been by our bus garage knows what kind of condition it's in, and it really needs to be completely replaced. There's really no upgrading it or renovating it. That parking lot over there needs to be paved. That's $220,000 to replace the parking lot. Let's do it right. What was the number on the bus garage? Justin, do you remember the estimate for replacing the bus garage?
I don't, it was just over 2 million?
Yeah, it was right around $2 million to build a new bus garage facility. And that would be on that same property that sits on now. And then if we look at the athletic side of things, really the tennis courts is the big one. Tennis courts are, the base is failing, it's cracking, and it's almost, at this point, even unplayable. With another year or so, it's not gonna be, we're not gonna be able to have tennis matches there. And that's a $1.1 million expense. So those are just some of the examples of things that they have to be done if we're gonna continue operating our facilities. These aren't wish list things, these aren't things that, we're just doing for aesthetic value. They need to be done to maintain the integrity of our facilities. So that's just an example, and I'll be happy to share other things with you if you have questions about this.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mrs. Innes,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp,
Yes.
Mr. Benson. Yes. Motion approved, 5-0.
Reed, would you like to speak now?
Hi, everybody knows me pretty well as the treasurer of the Vermillion School Levy Committee. And I just wanted to say that the committee is standing by and ready to, one, raise funds and put together a citizens committee to support and promote this bond issue. You know, one of the things of being involved with schools is we've been proud of the buildings that we have. Roofs and HVAC systems you can't see, but darn it, they need to be fixed and replaced and more efficient, et cetera, all the way through. And, you know, I keep thinking about this as buildings 68 here, 76 or whatever, 75 for Sailor Way, is, you know, we're proud of these buildings. Let's protect, preserve, and upgrade them and make them good spaces for students. Technology has sped way ahead of us, and we need to provide that kind of resource and infrastructure for students and the teachers so that we can provide a great education. So I look forward to working with you. Two board members can certainly be active on the levy committee and not constitute a meeting. And one of the things I suggest is that we search for people that would be co-chairman of the committee, not necessarily to do that, but I was thinking two people as co-chairs in the past really worked well, maybe even three people. And, you know, many hands make light work. And so we're ready to go and we'll get started, frankly, tomorrow. And get things going. So we're off to good things, but this is additional money that we're requesting, and it's gonna take quite a campaign to do that. So fundraising is gonna be very important in this process. Thank you very much. Call me if you need me. Best way to reach me is email, and it's reedwakefield@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bill,
Reed.
thanks, Reed.
Appreciate your time and support. All right, item 8, we get a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mrs. Innes,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp,
Yes.
Mr. Benson. Yes. Motion approved, 5-0. The time is 5:17 PM.